Well, a little recap on the last game, and just going back to the way our guys played, coaches prepared. Really proud of our players, proud of our coaches, and it was a game against a really good football team where we slowed down an explosive offense. We were able to run the ball effectively in the game, and our guys found a way to win. I know we talked about that throughout the season, but again, just a lot of credit to Utah State, but our guys, they came to play and they played well in that game, and we got a chance now to put ourselves in an opportunity to play for a championship this week. Fresno State, we got history with them. We know them. Coach Tedford obviously does a great job. Nothing but high praises for this team and what they've been able to do. I think this will be the fourth time in a year now we've had a chance to play. I mean, that's part of the deal. That means that they've played well. We've played well enough to put ourselves in this position. McBarian, their quarterback, a lot of respect for him. He's smart, tough, all those things. A guy that's led their team to a championship 2 years in a row. Ronnie Rivers, Keyshawn Johnson, all these playmakers on the offensive side. We've seen them, and we got a lot of respect for them. They can make plays. They do a great job. They're physical on the offensive line. Their tight ends play extremely well, and they're hard. They're hard to stop. They just do a good job on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, you keep going back to, look at their secondary, fourth in the nation in INTs. Jeff Allison, I talked about him last time. A lot of respect for him. He's a playmaker. He's an NFL guy, and certainly, one of the many players on that defensive side that is fast, physical, and consistent from what we've seen. And special teams right now, again, it's about us. We got to do our jobs on special teams. We got to make sure that we're clean, and we go out there and play to the best of our abilities. And they certainly can make plays. We got to take care of Fresno, but we got to take care of us. And that's why we have a week of prep to do that. And then we got to go out there and play our very best on that side of the ball. So, this is awesome. It's a great week, great challenge for us again to get prepared to play. Going back to the last game, I said it in the press conference at the end of the game there, but that felt, being out there on the field, different than it's felt in a long time. And I've been here a while, so I've been a part of some really great crowds and atmospheres and games. And that one, it was different. And we need that again, from our fans. We need that atmosphere. We need that same energy because certainly that made a difference. I thought that was a key factor in our success in the game. So, and I really do mean that. It was fun coming out of that after the game and just kind of feeling that energy and that vibe from our crowd, and that really made a difference for our players. So let's do it again. Have the blue rocking this week, get the fans out there, championship week, and make it a great atmosphere. Hopefully that's our advantage when we go play, and our guys will respond. They really enjoy that, and that's a big key for us in our success, I believe. So with that, open up for questions.
Focus on the here and now, of course, the Mountain West Championship, but the fact that you still have a shot at that group of five berth, that big bowl game. What does that mean to you guys to be in this position where you start out 3-2 and you still have an opportunity to be in the conversation and have a shot at it? You might even know by the time this game kicks off that you will.
Yeah, I haven't really put a lot of thought into it. I'm aware of it. The thought is just really sticking to what we've done this year. We were 3-2, and we've been able to win games since then because we focus on the task at hand. And I've said this before. I know it's the same thing you hear every week, but that goes for all of us too. Just not getting ahead of ourselves, and we can't control that. There's nothing we can do about that game whatsoever other than get ourselves ready for this one. That's it. And Fresno's got our attention. I promise you that. So I don't really have, or anybody else in our team, if they have time to think about somebody else or some other game or what other teams are doing, it'll show up on Saturday night. We won't be prepared, and we're not good enough to do that. So our team needs to focus on Fresno. We got a lot of guys out. We got guys that are banged up. We've been through a tough season. This is no exception going into this game. We got to get the guys that we have available to play ready, and they've got to be fully engaged on what we're doing this week. So all that'll work itself out. When this game's over, whatever happens, all those things will work itself out. Whatever happens from that standpoint. I know this: we're going to a bowl game. We're bowl eligible, so we know we're going to a bowl game. We just don't know what bowl game we're going to go to, and it really doesn't matter at this point.
You mentioned being 3-2. I mean, just the fact that you really had no margin for error the rest of the way, and just the task that you had ahead with having to play, two ranked teams and stuff. How were you able to go from 3-2 to win 7 straight and put your guys in this in this position?
Sure. Well, I think our standards, we don't have a margin for error, every week. That's always, we want to win. The goal is to win every game. We didn't do that. I think it went back to a focus that everybody in this room took. I think that's been a key factor for us. And we've executed better. We played better, in all 3 phases, more consistently, I should say. But I think, like I told you before, this team has something that it's not schematics, it's not anything like that. They got a lot of heart. They play hard. They played for each other, and just all these things that kind of make the chemistry of a team successful. They've done that this season. So I think that's been a big key to our success. I don't know if it's one thing. It's just been an accumulation of positive things that we've been trying to do week in and week out, and I think it goes back to our focus. And we seem to be a better football team when we're focused and we're out there to do our part, whatever that is, to the best of our ability, and we avoid, this individuality that doesn't and shouldn't exist on a team. There's plenty of that. You can individualize yourself every way possible now with social media and things like that. So I think the exception is being part of a team, which our guys have done a pretty good job of. And we're still always battling that, but that seems to show up and help us perform better on the weekends when we go play.
You mentioned 4 times in a year, and obviously in a sport where usually you play once a year. You learned about it a little bit last year, I assume, in the championship game. How does this affect your game planning and how you prepare for a game when you're so much more familiar with the opponent than you normally are?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think every time we asked this last year, right? We're going to go back to back. What's going to be different? I told you guys last year, I have no idea. I've never done it before. I've never done this before, where you play this many times. So I think it's back to our normal preparation habits. You kind of look at the game. They played San Jose State last, so you watch that game. What do you learn from that? You obviously watched the previous game that we played in. What do you learn from that? What have you learned in the games in between? We played New Mexico and Utah State in between those games. So, again, we've evolved. We're still structurally, there's some things that we do and they do that are similar, but we've developed or haven't, somewhere that we've got to make sure that we've improved, or we don't use that, or we don't do whatever we did against them again. So you just go back through that. I think if you get too far out of what you've been doing, then you're probably overthinking it a little bit. So preview, review the games you played in, and then go back to the process that you've used. And for us, it's that process, and then who are we going to be able to utilize? What's our personnel? A lot of that has to do with that too. We want to be able to do X, Y, and Z, but X, Y, and Z aren't out there. So we're going to have to do something different, and that's what we got to prepare for. But it's been interesting. I don't know if there's been any other. You guys probably know. Jay, you probably know. Has there been any other teams that have played 4 times in a year?
CF and Memphis they're in the same boat.
Are they really? Yeah. Okay, so there is. God, I was thinking about that. I'm like, no way. I thought we'd be the only ones. Dang it. I don't know. I was hoping that'd have a little more of a splash, but apparently.
It's like a year and 10 days or something. It is a little bit bigger. Yeah.
Craig's got the one. He can give it to you.
Huh? No, I think that's interesting. I was thinking about that driving home the other night going, okay, that's probably, I didn't know UCF and Memphis were the same boat. But, yeah, it doesn't happen very often, and it is what it is. We got to play, and, it's a great opportunity for us. We get a chance to get back on the blue. And I'm excited for our seniors, too. We didn't make too big of a deal on the seniors this last game because we really wanted to play in this one. And I don't think we were assuming or looking ahead. We just really felt like we were going to get another one. And this is the opportunity that we got.
You look at, you brought it up a couple times last week in regards to Utah State, but winning 10 games. Now that you've been a head coach for going on your 6th season now. How hard is it to consistently get to that point? And what does it mean to you that you coach a program that's done it 16 out of 20 years now? That's obviously pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I would say personally, if you're talking about the head coaching position, or as a coach in general, players, 10 games, you win 10 games is hard. Every single week it is. It's hard to do. You got to, it's hard to go undefeated. Clemson, Alabama, they're undefeated. Teams that are undefeated, that's hard to do. I don't care if it's at high school. We've seen teams here go undefeated. That is, I wouldn't say incredible or anything like that, but it's pretty spectacular to be able to do those things. So I'm proud of our team, and I'm proud that we have a program that's been able to do that. And I would say this, I know myself, I don't take that for granted. That office at the end of this hallway, that's part of something special. And, to be in that position, I don't take that for granted. And to be a part of a program that's been able to do things that Boise State's been able to do, you don't take that for granted. Because you look across the country, that's just not how it is. And to be consistent, the way this program, not perfect, but we've been pretty consistent. That says a lot about the type of players we bring in, coaches that have been a part of this program. It's not one person. It's a combination of everybody. And there's a lot of people from, the equipment room all the way through the head coach that make all these things happen. And so, yeah, that's something that I hope when our players and new guys come in, we have this next recruiting class, they're going to come in. And whatever this season turns out to be and whatever happens, I hope they respect the fact that the guys that have sat, not literally in these seats, but guys that have played on that field have done a lot to help this program develop. So we don't take that lightly. Now, the goal is that we keep getting better. We can embrace all that. I talked about that 5 years ago, right? We'll embrace the past and all that, but we got to keep attacking. I mean, if we just think that because of what we've done, we're going to pat ourselves in the back and be happy with where we are right now, I mean, we're maintaining, and that's the worst thing. I remember we had a deal on a Friday night I was showing the team, and it was about Lou Holtz was talking about when he got to Notre Dame, and he said, they took this team to the top, and then he said the worst thing they ever did was they maintained it. That's the worst thing we could ever do, is to maintain that. It's got to be better. It's got to improve. It's got to keep growing. We got to embrace that, but we've got to find ways to make it better. If you don't, then like a lot of really good teams that have had a lot of success over years, what happens to them? They dip. They dip, and they dip hard, and it's hard to climb back out. So I'm proud of the consistency that Boise State's shown over all those years, not just because I've coached here, but because of what the program's done. And we got to be very careful about finding ways to keep improving, because there's a lot of things we can do, and we just have to have that mindset every single day that we're trying to get better.
You look at what Alexander's been able to do the last month. I was curious your thoughts on how much progress the big fellas up front have made in that time as well.
Yeah, a lot of it's about Alex, and it certainly is. He goes out there, his style. He's fun. He's fun to watch, and he's a very good running back. And he also, his game too, he caught the ball well, and so he's well-rounded. But those guys up front are doing their part, and those guys up front, every play they're hitting. Every play they've got to show some type of physicality. Every play they've got to win some type of one-on-one battle. And to me, those tight ends, those O-linemen, wide receivers involved in the run game, they're a big part of it too. Everybody has a piece to the success of our run game. And when it's done right, Alex gets a chance to get in space, and we got a guy that we hand the ball off to that's pretty good. Give him a chance. There's probably good things that are going to happen. Don't give him a chance, then I don't care who you put back there. You're not going to be successful. So to me, it's been the 10 guys out there besides Alex doing their part, quarterbacks getting them the ball, all those things. It all has to come together in order for that to be successful. But he's definitely taken on a big load this last month, and he's been very productive. To me, his preparation leading up to the games, you guys don't get to see that all the time, but it's been very impressive. what he's been able to do to get himself geared up and ready to go. And hopefully this week again we get the same result, that we get a guy that can go out there, run the ball effectively, get the guys up front doing their part, and that becomes a big part of our game, is that we're able to run it, because we'd like to be balanced. I think anybody would say that. We want to be balanced as we can be to run it when we run it, and that's a big part of it, everybody doing their job.
With about 9 minutes left in the game Saturday night, there was a timeout. You faced a fourth down. There was a timeout, not at the end of the game, but with 9 minutes left. The entire team, not just the offense, but the entire team gathered around, like 90 guys or whatever it was. What happened at that moment? What was said, and what kind of a moment was that in the game?
Yeah. Was that right before we punted it?
No, I think you went for it and got it.
Okay. I'm trying to think about that, Tom, right there. I remember the guys coming up. I don't remember the exact situation. The key to that is the players, they were into it, in that game. And I guess that's one of the questions you guys have been asking a little bit is, something about this team. I don't know if I have a word to describe it necessarily, but these guys, they're into what's going on. They're supportive of each other. And so whether I know in the game, defense kind of had their back against the wall, and the offense is out there supporting them. They're trying to do what they can to get them, excited, or let them know that, hey, they're there for them, make a good play, we believe in you, whatever it is. And then on the flip side too, the defense for the offense too. We got to go score. We had that even at the end of the game, whenever the 9 seconds left and we're going for it on fourth down, because there's no reason to kick a field goal right there. At that point, we're so close, and it was, let's go punch it in. You're that close in a game like that, you're playing to win. And I think the other way would have been not the mentality that we set out in that game to play with. So, and those guys were all up at that point too. But that's been a little bit more common this season with our players. It happened in the New Mexico game. There was we need the momentum back, and guys were up, and Kala gets a pick, and we get the turnover. We go down to score, and the momentum changes. We score the next play. Guys kind of get that back. So I think it's just been part of our team, and the leadership of our team. Brett, Tyler Horton, Jabril Frazier, those guys that are leaders on our team. Durant Miles, those type of guys. I mean, even David Moa, a guy that has been able to play for us. Those guys are still there leading our team and trying to make sure we're doing things right, at least from that standpoint.
I'm not, if your players get penalties, I don't know if they do extra running or anything like that, but do your coaches do that? I asked because on the broadcast, after you guys snuffed out the fake punt, people could see very fired up Coach K. And I don't know if you saw the video. Okay. Well, it looked like he was giving a number 1 to the opposite sideline, but it's the other finger. I don't know if you saw it. Okay. Well, I just rattled him out, so my apologies. But that play, you kind of mentioned it.
Yeah.
The defense was on the field, so you guys were obviously pretty much expecting it.
Well, they had done that before. That wasn't the first time they did that, and I would say we were expecting it. And that would be. I can tell you that we weren't. We were ready for it. The linebackers were ready for it. Really, the key on that play. I think we had a really good idea what they were going to do. I think our guys, they saw what was going on. They made an adjustment. Jabril Frazier sets the edge, and if you watch that play, he's about 3 yards in the backfield. He sets the edge, and it was physical. And the rest of the guys are right there. And a couple years, or I guess last year or 2 years ago, they ran a fake punt too. They got it. So we've seen it before, and I think that was something, that might have been mentioned that we might have done that in the game, right? We're going to run a fake punt or whatever, and they went and ran a fake punt. So we were ready for it, and our guys, they dialed into what was going on. They were dialed into the situation, and they did exactly what they had to do to stop the play. So I don't think it's a bad play by Utah State, but our guys were all over it.
We've asked so much about all the guys being injured and all that, but to see a guy like Evan Tyler, come in and had a, nice pass breakup on the first drive, and some of the other guys in the secondary that came in, and even a guy like Garrett Collingham, who's obviously wearing a big brace still and
Sure
toughs it out and gets a touchdown. What has it really been like to see some of these guys that whether it be they're injured and they're trying to fight through, or guys that are filling in for guys, being able to step up here down the stretch with guys that haven't had a whole lot of playing time?
Yeah, well, it's been. I think as coaches, you wish you had, everybody healthy and you had full strength and you had your options. That doesn't happen. As the season goes on, we just had guys out for a while, but a guy like Garrett, who's been banged up and has stepped up, a guy like Evan Tyler, who's done the same thing, has overcome a couple of knee injuries through his career to be in the position that he's in. That's really a credit to them. It's credit to their coaches getting them dialed in and ready to play, but those guys being able to go out there and step up and play. And to me, this is where guys get in trouble. You're a backup, and you act like a backup. You butterflies when practice is going on. You're not paying attention. You're not focused. You don't sit in here and take notes. You don't really do anything. You just accept the role that you're a backup, and then bang, you're not a backup. Now you're a starter, and you go out there and you play like a backup. That's the worst thing that could happen to us. And most of the guys that have played, that have been backups to start with, they never prepare like that. They prepare like a starter. Some weeks they prepare like a starter. They spend all this time. They get 5 plays. And the hard part is, as a person, you kind of go, is all this time worth it? Until you go out there and you have your opportunity to start and you go break up a pass early on in the game and it's like, I'm ready to play. And you show it. Then is it all worth it? Absolutely. But it's worth it 6 weeks ago when you weren't playing. That's the hard thing to get through to guys, is time's coming. And some guys just won't do that, and they wonder why they don't play well, because you didn't prepare. Evan Tyler, no question, hands down, always prepares, always will prepare. That'll never be a problem, never a question. Garrett Collingham, all these guys that have shown up and played, and they've been in the game, there's a reason why. And Garrett, the play that we ran was very similar to the one that Maryland ran against Ohio State. And if you guys went back and watched that play and the one against Maryland, and this is just me being a coach, but the quarterback threw it and there was a window of opportunity for the receiver to slide. All right, well, we kind of run the same play, and hey, Garrett, we get in that same situation, there's a window and you slide with the quarterback. And what did he do? He slid over with the quarterback, Brett found him, and it was wide open. And so, to me, it's being able for guys like that in moments when you're on the 2-yard line and you got to score in a tight ball game, to do those little things that they did during the week in that type of moment. You don't do that unless you're prepared. You don't do that unless you're focused. You don't do that unless you're fully engaged. And he was lights out on it. Brett was lights out on it. It was perfect. It was wide open. And there was nobody around him, and he, took the shot right in the body, fell down. I mean, I think everybody was just like, okay, I didn't know it was going to be that open, but it was. So very similar to that. So you learn, you learn from other things that people do along the way too. And we try to teach our guys the game as best we can, but they got to be focused enough to learn it. And in that moment, that's exactly what showed up. Yeah, the one that Maryland went for against Ohio State. I mean, very similar play, and really, to be honest with you, kind of the same look that we got on that one there. And you learn, right? You watch other teams play, you learn from them, and they were able to do that, and he applied it. Is there something wrong? What's that? Oh. Okay,
well, Coach, coming into November, you guys played all these games that you needed to win to get to this point, and these were tough games. And from what I saw, it showed that you guys can win in a variety of different ways. But I'm wondering how being battle tested like that helps you moving forward.
Yeah, well, every one of those division games is a must-win, and then even those non-division games too, the Nevadas and so on that we played in there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's just part of the season. You're trying to win, and I don't think there's a game you go out there, and we certainly didn't. Even the ones that we lost, there wasn't a point ever that week where we conceded we may lose this game, or we threw our hands up during the game, or just like, hey, whatever, let's just move on. We'd never do that. We're trying to win. We tried to play our best against Oklahoma State and San Diego State, and they played better, period. So learn from it, apply it, and just understand how important these little things that we have to do every day how important they really are. Otherwise, they show up in the game. That's where I think our guys. The game is the game. Yeah, you got to overcome. I think you got to be ready to respond. You got to handle adversity, but you got to get yourself to that point throughout the week. And just because you did it 2 weeks ago doesn't mean 2 weeks later that's just going to happen for you. You got to go back through it again and get yourself ready to go. So that's where if you skip steps, in my opinion, it shows up. And I don't think we've done that. Not the guys that have been playing, and not the guys that have been playing well. We've certainly made mistakes, and there's some guys that don't go through the process like they should, and it shows up, and it can hurt us. So this week, we got one more shot. It better be right. And we can use our experience, we can draw from it, but we better do our job this week to get ready to play against Fresno.
I saw you tweet out today about you guys are going to stay home and prepare for the Mountain West Conference Championship game and not go recruiting.
Yeah.
You know, I know you guys went through this a very similar scenario last year, but again, if you play in the Vegas Bowl, you got another game in 2 weeks from Saturday. How trying or how difficult is it to manage all this? Did you make any adjustments from last year? And then just before that kind of chaotic maybe answer is just, is there a moment over the last month or so that you've just taken a moment or stands out to you to just enjoy or appreciate?
Yeah, as far as the schedule goes, it is what it is. We gladly will stay home. You know, we've been on the road this week, and we prefer to be here, or at least here preparing for the championship game. Now it happens to be here, but if it was somewhere else, we'd be happy to stay here as well, get ready for that. So that's part of it. That's where the schedule, we know it. It's already been laid out. It's on a calendar. We knew when the championship game was. We were trying to get there, and we'll be there soon, ready to play for it. Like we talked about before, the bowl games, I don't know how that all is going to fit, but if it happens quickly, we'll get ready. You know, the turnaround is different. You know, you don't get much rest, but for the guys, that it is what it is, and it's not always a bad thing. You know, you just turn back around, you get a few weeks to prepare for a game, and you go play. Moments, yeah, there's been a few. There's been a few out there, and I think our guys, you know, I think, you know, senior night, there's been some records set, obviously Brett, and some things have happened. You know, Curtis Weaver has played well this year. I mean, there's been some things that we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about because the season's not over, but we're certainly aware of. I think the moment was the senior night. You know, all those guys running out. Paul Siemens, Andres Preciado, Skylar Siebold, Jake Shaddix. I mean, all these guys that have been a part of this program that, to me, you know, we talked to like an A.J. Richardson, a Sean Monster, all these guys that have stuck it out. And they easily could have packed their bags, went somewhere else, a little bit easier, and done more. Maybe their numbers would have been better through their career. But I don't know, I just think about that stuff. That stuff to me means a lot. That guys persevere, because I just think that the game of football, it's not going to last forever. We all know that. You can't play it your whole life, but the lessons learned through it, they absolutely do. These guys can't compete at the game their whole life, but they're always going to be competitors, and guys that persevere like that, like a Skylar Siebold who walked on, had 2 ACLs, and earned a scholarship and has been a special teams demon for us. Is that the glory position all the time where you get all the stories written about you? Absolutely not. But what he's learning right now, when he's done playing ball, those things, they'll stand out. That'll be difference. That'll be a difference maker for him. And his leadership and stuff he's done here, just as an example. Like, those things stand out to me. I appreciate that a whole lot more than I do maybe some of the awards or the numbers and things like that. Because I know when all this is over, that's the stuff that's going to matter.